Disclaimer: doll customization is not for children. I'm using toxic chemicals as well as sharp and hot tools. Hello my loves, I'm Susika and welcome to another episode. In today's episode I'm going to make a daffodil fairy. Are you excited? Let's start. This is today's candidate, a monster high doll. She has a natural skin tone and a cute face mold. I think she will be perfect as a cute spring fairy. I start by cutting off her hair as close to the scalp as possible. This is the doll with her hair cut off. Next, I bring water to a boil and soak the doll's head in the hot water for at least 10 minutes. This will soften the vinyl and the glue inside her head. I carefully remove her head from the neck pack. Be careful not to burn your fingers. With an oil screwdriver, I scrape the inside of the doll's head, loosening the hair roots and the glue. With needle nose pliers, I remove what is inside the head. With a cotton pad soaked in pure acetone, I remove the printed on face. Wear gloves to do this, as the acetone can attack the skin. I clean face and body with running water and soap. Next I am going to reroot the doll's head. For that I am using synthetic doll hair in golden blonde and white. To reroot the hair I need a rerooting tool, which is a needle cut at an angle in a handle. I push a strand of hair into each hole in the doll's scalp. This process takes many hours, but I always find the result worth all the work. Her hair will be mostly golden blonde with a few strands of hair in white. Here I have already rerooted the entire hairline. I will now fill the rest of the scalp with hair. Rerooting takes some practice. You will soon be able to reroot the doll's head in a few hours. This is how the hair looks once I am done. And now I add thick glue to cover the hair roots inside the doll's head. I spread the glue with a brush. I then let the glue dry for at least one night. Once the glue has fully dried, I carefully brush the doll's hair. I then pour boiling hot water over the hair to flatten it. I then let the hair fully dry. Next I am going to work on the doll's body. I have prepared the body with 2 layers of Mr. Super Clear Sealant Spray. I use Mr. Super Clear UV Cut Flat Sealant Spray and then I add red soft pastels to her joints and her fingers. Blushing the body will make the skin look more realistic. Once I am done with the pastels, I seal them in with another layer of Mr. Super Clear Sealant Spray. Once the sealant spray has dried, I am working on the doll's outfit. I am going to create a full tulle underskirt, and I keep the tulle in place with a drop of glue. I am using tulle in coral. I wrap the material around the doll's hips, and once the skirt is full enough, I cut the fabric and then close the skirt with another drop of glue. I have thrifted the white top, and I am going to use some of the top's lace for my doll skirt. Thrifting is a great way to buy cheap material for doll customization, which is also good for the environment. I cut a piece of lace for my doll skirt. I add the lace as an overskirt to the doll's outfit. For the doll's top, I am using a lace trim with pearls. I find the skirt is not full enough, so I add another layer of tulle, and now I am going to add daffodils to the skirt. I trim the stems of the daffodil blossoms, and then I add them with a bit of glue to the tulle skirt. Then I add pearl-colored flowered charms to the skirt. Next, I will give my fairy wings. For that, I take a deco butterfly apart, then I add the butterfly wings to the doll's back with glue. I recommend using hot glue for this. Next, I prepare the doll's face with 2 layers of Mr. Super Clear UV Cut Flat Sealant Spray. I then add pastels to her cheeks, forehead and nose. You can spread the pastels with a clean finger. I also add orange soft pastels as eyeshadow, and then red soft pastels to her lips. After a layer of sealant spray, I add more soft pastels to her face. You will have to work in layers. That means to build up opacity, you add a layer of sealant spray and then you add more pastels to the cheeks and the eyeshadow. After another layer of sealant, I color the base of the eyes white, and I use watercolor pencils for this. I darken the corners of her lips with a red watercolor pencil. Here I am drawing the eyebrows. Next, I sketch the outlines of the eyes. Her iris will be green. The upper part of the iris will be dark green and the lower part light green. I recommend using watercolor pencils by a good brand, as those brand watercolor pencils have more pigment than cheap watercolor pencils. My watercolor pencils are from Faber Castell. Here I am adding dark brown soft pastels to her inner eyelids. I am also adding some more orange soft pastels to her eyeshadow. And to her lips. I add some more white pigment to her sclera and some more pigment to her iris. After another layer of sealant, I work some more on her sclera. I add yellow to the lower part of her iris to create a vibrant light green. I recommend to sketch the eyes with a light color watercolor pencil and to darken the lines as you work on the doll with darker pencils. I am aiming to create gradient lips. I add some white to the middle of the lips. With a kneaded eraser you can remove pigment from the doll's face. Here I add a highlight under the ends of her eyebrows. Next I color the outer corners of her mouth brown. With a black watercolor pencil I draw the pupils. I also use my black watercolor pencil to darken her lash line. I am trying to create a more realistic face-up for this spring fairy. After another layer of sealant, I add some more yellow pigment to the lower part of her iris and some more white to her lips. As you can see, I add pigment in each layer. This will build up opacity. I darken the lash line some more. Now I am drawing lower eyelashes with a dark brown watercolor pencil. For the upper eyelashes I use my black watercolor pencil. You can use acrylic paints for your face-ups, but I do not recommend them as you cannot fix a mistake with acrylic paint easily. However, if you use watercolor pencils, you can easily remove the pigment with a wet brush. I add some more pastels to her eyeshadow and more pigment to her iris and pupils. It takes many layers for me until the face-up is done. I draw the catch lights with a white watercolor pencil. Here I am drawing the final touches. Whenever I want to save my progress or build up more opacity, I add a layer of sealant spray. After 2 layers of sealant spray, the face-up is done, and I carefully reattach the head to the doll's body. Actually, I am not quite happy with the face-up, so I am adding golden shimmer powder to the skin. Next, I want to add flower charms to her hairline. For that I trim pins, dip them in super glue and then pin them to attach the flower charms to her hairline. the pins have yellow beads at the end, which are perfect for flower centers. I add charms in different sizes. I actually added golden freckles with watercolor paint and white eyelashes with a white watercolor pencil after the doll was done, because I took photos of the doll and I was not quite satisfied with how she looked. Here is the finished doll. I named her Cassandra. She is the daffodil spring flower fairy. I'm quite happy with how she turned out. I really like her face up. It looks so soft and realistic. And I really like how the flowers on her hairline look on her blonde hair. I also like her outfit. And she's a very pretty fairy. This fairy has already been sold, but I have many more dolls up for sale. Stay safe and be creative.